Hey everyone, it's me, Jen, and I'm nothing if not intense. It's Monday, December 31st, 2018. Welcome to On the Record with NINI, 1 year later. Today is the 1 year anniversary of my first upload to YouTube. I can't even believe it's been a year. I hope I've gotten a little bit better. I'm not sure that I have, and if I haven't, I apologize because honestly, I did not know what I was doing whatsoever, had not ever done anything like this, and so I've just kind of learned on the fly. So I hope that I have contributed something to this community over the past year. A few things that I want to go through tonight. The Global Terrorism Index for 2018. We're going to take a look at that, and that's going to dovetail nicely with something else that I want to talk about, which is a video that Charlton uploaded today. And I have some feelings about that, and I want to talk about it. So I'm happy to be back. I haven't been feeling the greatest. I don't know if I was just burnt out or what. Past couple weeks just have been not the greatest, and I just kind of vegged out and binge watched like the British baking show and shit like that. So that's why I'm so behind on my comments. I owe people emails and all that stuff. So let's jump into this Global Terrorism Index report for 2018. This is measuring the impact of terrorism. And if we go to page, oh my gosh, I thought it was page 5. Oops. Page 5. It talks about a ton of stuff. It's quite a big report, so I'm just going to highlight some of the things that caught my attention. It's talking about the impact of terrorism in like Syria, Iraq, Libya, Niger, the Philippines. And then it says elsewhere, the threat of far-right political terrorism is on the rise. Blah, blah, blah. Gosh. In the US, there were 30 attacks in 2017, which resulted in 16 deaths. The majority of attacks were carried out by lone actors with far-right, white nationalist, or anti-Muslim beliefs. Now, in this paragraph, they're only talking about far-right political terrorism. They're not talking about all terrorism. So just the far right. So, because I will link this, and then if somebody reads this, they're going to be like, well, hey, it said this on this page and something else on another page. So, again, this is only talking about the far right political terrorism. So that said, that resulted in 16 deaths in 2017. If we go to page 47, this is where it gets pretty interesting. Trends in Western Europe and North America. In the US, total deaths rose from 64 to 86, primarily as the result of the Las Vegas shooting in October 2017 that killed 59 people. So they are calling that a terrorist attack. I have called it a terrorist attack. I've felt like that for a long time. At some point when I was listening to all the scanner traffic, I was just like this, they were under siege. This was a huge deal. The number of incidents per year in North America has tripled in the past 5 years, with 61 recorded terrorist incidents in 2017, up from just 19 in 2012. So again, in the U.S., total deaths rose from 64 to 86, primarily as the result of the Las Vegas shooting in October 2017 that killed 59 people. Terrorist trends in Western Europe and North America. They are calling this a terrorist attack. And if we go to page 83, the 50 worst terrorist attacks in 2017. They are ranked 1 through 50. If we go down to number 22, United States, 10/1/2017, Las Vegas, anti-government extremists, 59 deaths by armed assault. So country, date, city, organization, fatalities, attack type. Rank 22, 10/1/2017, Las Vegas, anti-government extremists, 59 deaths, armed assault. So within this 50, this is the only one that's kind of vague as far as it doesn't say, you know, Antifa or anti-fascist government extremists or ISIS terrorist attack, whatever the case may be. Because you see here, it says Fulani extremists, Taliban, ISIL, Boko Haram, a lot of other things that I cannot pronounce. TWA militia, Taliban. There's no other one that is ranked in the top 50 that the organization is just called an anti-government extremist group. So I guess you can, I don't know, draw your own conclusions from there, but this report clearly is saying that this was a terrorist attack. Now, if we go back up, who did this report? This is done by the Institute for Economics and Peace. The Institute for Economics and Peace Global Terrorism Report 2018, Measuring and Understanding the Impact of Terrorism. Sydney, November 2018. So they're headquartered in Sydney with offices in New York, The Hague, Mexico City, and Brussels. They work with a wide range of partners internationally and collaborate with intergovernmental organizations on measuring and communicating the economic value of peace. Now, when I look at 2017's same report, Global Index for Terrorism, this one gives you a good idea or understanding of how they come to call something a terrorist attack and where they're getting their data from. And so this is their 2017 report. Defining terrorism is not a straightforward matter. There is no single internationally accepted definition of what constitutes terrorism, and the terrorism literature abounds with competing definitions and typologies. IEP accepts the terminology and definitions agreed to by the GTD and the National Consortium for the Study of Terrorism and Responses to Terrorism, START, which START is based out of the University of Maryland, and it's basically ran by the Department of Homeland Security. So I would think that those people would know if something were a terrorist attack or not. So the GTD is the global terrorism definition, I believe. The GTI is the Global Terrorism Index. So the GTI therefore defines terrorism as the threatened or actual use of illegal force and violence by a non-state actor, someone or some group, entity that does not work for the government to attain a political, economic, religious, or social goal through fear, coercion, or intimidation. So there's all this criteria needs to be met, and this is for the GTD, which is what they use in their evaluations. The incident must be intentional, the result of conscious calculation on the part of a perpetrator. The incident must entail some level of violence or threat of violence, including property damage as well as violence against people. The perpetrators of the incident must be subnational actors. This database does not include acts of state terrorism. In addition to the baseline definition, two of the following three criteria have to be met in order to be included in the START database from 1997. The violent act was aimed at obtaining a political, economic, religious, or social goal. It included evidence of intention to coerce, intimidate, or convey some other message to a larger audience other than to the immediate victims. The violent act was outside the precepts of international humanitarian law. In cases where there is insufficient information to make a definitive distinction about whether it is a terrorist incident within the confines of the definition, the database codes these incidents as doubt terrorism proper in order to only count unambiguous incidents of terrorism. The study does not include doubted incidents. This is from 2017. I would assume that they use the same criteria in 2018. So they make it very clear that they don't count anything that's not clearly within that definition of terrorism. If it was something that was doubted, they would not put that in this report. So you have an international I'm losing my train of thought, I'm sorry. An international institute saying that Las Vegas was a terrorist attack. And I would agree. Among other things, though, there were other things going on that night. And that's where the difficulty lies, because honestly, if you are somebody that's got your eyes wide open, don't have any preconceived notions, or you don't have your hypotheses already formed to only look at what will, make that come true, then you will see that there were definitely, there's definite evidence of some type of drill that was going on. And I'm not saying that nobody died, nobody got hurt. Please do not misunderstand me. But you have to realize that there was some type of drill going on too. There was some type of terrorist attack. There was some type of other drug activity going on. There could have been robberies going on. So it was a multifaceted attack with many layers and many things going on. So I think that's what makes it so difficult, because how do all those pieces fit together? I don't know, because I can have evidence for all those things separately, but when I try to make them fit all together, I can't do it. I can't do it. I don't know how all those things could be happening simultaneously, but I think they were. I mean, I don't know how the hell they were, but they were. I don't know how it was all set up, because it is like a clusterfuck. Pardon my French. But I would I'm here to tell you that this is me going on the record stating those things. This is me saying that, yes, I believe that it was a terrorist attack, and if you go back through my other work, you will see that I've been saying that for a long time. Also, I can't ignore the stuff that is just so ridiculous and so fake and so made up with the ambulances and the people that were supposedly hurt and, you know, shot in the chest and he's not bleeding, and shot in the head and they're walking around. And I mean, it's just crazy. It's crazy. And like, that makes me really uncomfortable, that part of it. I don't like it, but I have to face it, and I have to talk about it, because that was something that was happening. For me, and I don't know if, I mean, am I the only person that has noticed all these goddamn, there's something going on with these white bags, and you may think I'm nuts, but I swear, and why was the DEA there that night? Why were they in the DOC, which is the Department Operations Center that LVMPD set up, which is supposed to be all the higher ups, you know, running the show? They've got a DEA rep in there because and I should have got the clip ready, but he was a congressman, Reuben Kewen. He tells us that. He tells us that on a live news broadcast, that he was at the DOC and the DEA was there, DHS was there, the FBI never mentions ATF, you know, and this thing's supposed to be all about guns. Bullshit. Bullshit. The ATF's footprint is like minuscule compared to the FBI, compared to the DEA. So the guns, all that was just cover for whatever else was going on. That was just staged bullshit. All those guns, staged bullcrap. But dovetailing this report that clearly states that this was a terrorist attack, with Charlton's video that he put up today. I don't know the name of it, but basically he's talking about, and don't get me wrong, because I've followed Charlton for a long time. I don't always agree with Charlton. A lot of times lately I don't agree with Charlton, but I still respect Charlton, and I don't have a bad word to say about him. However, today he kind of lit a fire under my ass, because he's talking about Doug Papa, and that subject just pisses me off from the get-go, because I don't have 1 ounce of respect for Doug Papa. Now, in the beginning, I thought, this guy's good. He knows what he's talking about. He's got, you know, he's right on everything, right? And then it was, I believe, it was when the preliminary report came out, it was like all of a sudden, yep, lone shooter, Stephen Paddock, he did it, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what the hell? Like, he flipped a switch. He flipped. So I'm like, okay, well, I don't agree with you, and I don't know how you came to that conclusion, but if that's how you feel, that's fine. I just stopped really reading his articles and just kind of didn't follow him anymore. Well, then recently, when the body cam came out about the 3 females, and where it said, where security told the officer that was in the control room that, oh, no, we were mistaken. Those were either future guests or guests that were here before. No, they weren't in that room. And so he's like, oh, the mystery of the 3 women is solved. Bullshit. That was a lie, because number 1, we've got first names of these chicks. Number 2, the officer that was in there had relayed all that information to his sergeant. His sergeant does his statement, his witness statement, or officer's statement, 9 days later, and never retracts that. He states in his statement that 3 females were registered in that room. Now, if that was bogus, it seems like he would have said, oh, but by the way, at first they told me that there was 3 females registered, but then it was later, said to me that that was a mistake, that those, that wasn't right, that those females were not in that room. He never retracted that in his officer's statement. In his statement, he says he got the information who was registered in that room, and it was Stephen Paddock and 3 other women, 3 females. So by Doug Papa coming out and saying, oh, the mystery is solved, without doing any further follow-up, looking at Officer Ty's statement, his sergeant's statement, his sergeant was down at the CP. His sergeant was at South Central. So, and you're telling me, and if you're trying to tell me that Mandalay Bay can sit there, the security can look at his computer screen and make a mistake and it not be clear from the get-go who is currently in that room, who is booked in the future for that room, and who was there prior. If that is not clear, then Mandalay Bay wouldn't be in business right now, because that's the bread and butter. They got to know who's there, who's coming, who left. Well, not so much, who left, who cares? They're gone. They already made their money off them. But they are interested in the people that are there and the people that are booked for the future. So you cannot tell me that that security guard, Brett Book, sat there, looked at his, pulled that up, looked at his screen, and made a mistake like that. No, it didn't happen. He gave the information that was on his screen of the people that were registered to that room. So again, there's another thing that I'm going on the record saying that Doug Papa is full of shit. He is compromised, whatever his deal is. I don't even care, because I try not to, I just try to ignore him. But when he comes out with shit like that, sometimes I can't ignore that. The next thing Charlton says is, well, he's talking about the Safety Act, and he is talking about Jim Murren, CEO of MGM. And I do agree with a few things that he says about Murren not being a Trump fan. He is totally not a Trump fan whatsoever. He came right out on national TV, said he's pulling the lever for Hillary in 2016, even though he's a registered Republican. He was pulling the lever for Hillary. He is like a George Soros Jr. with all his global, global economy, global this, global that, inclusion this, inclusion that. And he likes all these minorities and things because he employs a lot of them, and he can influence them. He uses them. He is not there to help those people. He is there to use them, but he needs them for his goals and his dreams of the New World Order, or whatever him and Georgie Boy have planned, So yeah, he's not a Trump fan whatsoever. And he got into it with Kelly Conway on MSNBC or something. Just nutty stuff on national TV. Supporting, all these organizations, CARE, Southern Poverty Law Center, having his employees support these organizations, paying his employees to volunteer, paying his employees to volunteer for these organizations. I could go on and on about him, but I digress. And the Safety Act. Now, Charlton says he doesn't understand why YouTube creators who are Trump supporters are creating things and saying that that was a terrorist attack. Because by doing that, we're not supporting Trump, and we're not supporting the victims, and we're supporting MGM and Jim Mirren. I am like, what in the hell are you talking about? I understand his thought process on it, but it is way off. It is way off. I'm sorry. I'm looking for the truth. I'm looking for the facts. I'm looking for the facts within the truth and the truth within the facts, because they are synonymous. And I'm not going to go there again because that pisses me off too. So, in my quest to look for the truth and the facts of what went down in Vegas that night, I'm not thinking about, all I'm thinking is the truth will benefit everyone except for the perpetrators, except for the people that orchestrated this. I'm not thinking that, oh, I'm going to help MGM, or I'm going to help this person or that person. I'm thinking on a global, in a global realm of the truth will help everybody, everyone. And the victims, I think that they would rather truly know what the fuck happened that night rather than have a big wad of money. I don't know. Either way, I mean, not to take away anything from them monetarily, but I would think that the truth would be of much more value than any money that they could ever get from that nasty, evil MGM corporation. And yeah, I'm calling them out. It's bullshit. They're trying to skate. They're trying to duck the liability out of this thing through the Safety Act. Through the Safety Act. Now, one statement Charlton says is that Safety Act was in play the moment that last shot was fired, or even before. That's what it was all about. That's what it was all about. No, it wasn't. If that's what it was all about, they would have been yelling terrorist attack from minute one. No, it was not. They did everything in their power to cover up the terrorist attack because it would financially, or in their minds, financially devastate the economy of Clark County and the whole of Nevada, actually, because they are so dependent on tourism. They are so dependent on MGM for everybody that it employs, and the list goes on and on and on. The resort fees pay salaries for the LVMPD. I mean, it gets to be where it all comes back to all the money generated from tourism is what's running the goddamn state. And that's a fact. So anything that in their minds that they perceive that would hurt that, they are going to cover up. They are going to make it go away. They are going to lie. They will do anything that they have to, including effing with lock interrogation reports. I mean, Charlton acted like, oh my God, that would be criminal to do that. Well, hell yeah, it would be. But if they needed to do it, they're going to do it. Just like they lied about the bracket that their fucking security put on the door. That's not criminal. That was criminal. Well, then they blame whoever was in 135. They blame Stephen Paddock. I don't think it's him. the person that's dead in there is not him, I don't believe. And oh my, it just goes on and on and on. So if Charlton's that naive to think that they would never change a report like that, then dude, Charlton, I I love you, bro, but man, wake up, dude. You have you're thinking, you have a very different way of thinking, and that's not a bad thing at all. But sometimes you gotta come back to look at some other stuff and say, okay, I concede that, yeah, they're lying and they are acting criminal on a number of levels. MGM, the FBI, the LVMPD, it is it is them all working together to cover that up. Now, we didn't hear terrorist attack. Now, I mean anything but that. Anytime Jim Murren, Joe Lombardo, Aaron Rouse, anybody, Carolyn Goodman, anybody like that talked about Las Vegas, it was the sole actor, the lone shooter, the lone this, the crazed lone old fart that killed all those people. They never said the word terrorist. Ever, never, never, never. Anything that was said about terrorism was we could find no links to terrorism. There's no nexus to terrorism. For 10 months. For 10 months, that's what they said anytime they could, right? Right. Until July 13th, when MGM files the suit against the victims that were suing them for negligence. That's when all this comes into play, the Safety Act. So when they need it to be actually what it was, a terrorist attack, but now we're 10 months out. So if it does get deemed a terrorist attack, that is not going to have the impact on tourism that it would have if it would have been deemed that from the get-go. Not by any stretch of the imagination. So I think in their minds, then now it's okay because it's going to benefit them. It would benefit them to have it be a terrorist attack to try to pawn off all the responsibility onto CSC, who was the security at the venue that night, because then it all, if it falls under the Safety Act, if it's deemed terrorism, then the seller of services, which would have been the security at the venue, all the liability in MGM's mind should fall on them. Well, guess what? In the lawsuit, I mean, they're just making a case. They're really trying to make a case for it being terrorism. And it's really not that hard to do because it was a terrorist attack. It wasn't a lone wolf terrorist attack, but it was a terrorist attack. Within the MGM Nevada lawsuit against the victims, they do make a good case for it being a terrorist attack. Just a few things here. Defendants' actual and threatened lawsuits implicate the services provided by CSC because they implicate security at the concert, including training, emergency response, evacuation, and adequacy of egress. These claims are subject to the Safety Act because they arise from and relate to an act of mass violence, meeting the statutory requirements. CSC provided security at the concert, deploying services certified by the DHS under the Safety Act to protect against or respond to such an attack, and the claims may therefore result in loss to CSC as a seller of those services. The claims threatened against the MGM parties by certain defendants through counsel also fall under Safety Act for the very same reasons, They arise from and relate to an act of mass violence, meeting all the requirements, blah, 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 and they may therefore result in loss to CSC as the seller. If defendants were injured by Paddock's assault, as they allege, they were inevitably injured both because Paddock fired from his window. Now, pump the brakes, because right there, that sentence, because Paddock fired from Mandalay Bay's window, not his window. Your window, MGM. Your window, Mandalay Bay, not his window. Fired from Mandalay Bay's window, and because they remained in the line of fire at the concert, that's why they were injured. Such claims implicate security at the concert and may result in loss to CSC. So MGM is just throwing CSC under the bus. But they should have their own liability insurance to cover any loss that's resulting to them. And Charlton is correct in saying that the victims may maybe get less if it were to go, be funneled through the Safety Act thing. However, that is not my goal in what I've been doing for over a year. That's not what other creators, that's not their goal, to have this help MGM get out of liability for this and get victims less money. Not at all. So for him to say that that's what we're doing and it's a direct diss to Trump is a bunch of bullshit. We're looking for the truth. And whatever ramifications it has, it has. I'm sorry. But again, I don't know, because I haven't talked to the victims myself, but I could only imagine if it was one of my family members that were killed that night. Guess what? If I'm looking at $500,000, or if I'm looking at actually knowing what happened, the truth, the naked truth of what happened that night, I would choose the truth over that fucking money any day of the week. Now, maybe that's just me. I don't know. But I highly doubt it, because whatever it was, or whatever combination of things that it was a shit show that needs to be exposed. And the people that lived through it, by no fault of their own, that were thrown into it, that, they weren't hired as crisis actors, they weren't working for MGM, they weren't a part of ISIS, they weren't a part of Antifa, they're not FBI, they're not LVMPD. All these people that were involved in this shit, they were not a part of it. They deserve the truth. And they deserve money too. I'm not saying that they don't. But how Charlton was saying that today, it just really kind of pissed me off. And I hope that I am expressing this. I feel like a blubbering idiot right now, because I get it. It really lit a fire under my ass. So thank you, Charlton. Because I am not doing this. I'm not doing this to help MGM. That would be the farthest thing, the least thing that I would want to do. But in the pursuit of the truth, if it does help them, I apologize. But guess what? In the end, if they skate out of this, if they are not liable for anything, it will be a cancer in that corporation. And it probably already is. I mean, it is a greedy, filthy, global, new world order. Ugh, just makes me sick. Something very, very bad will happen to them. I hope. I mean, not that I hope something very bad that didn't come out right. But I mean, you know, I'm a true believer in karma. I really am. Now, unfortunately, with all the people that they employ and their footprint within that state and other places, that sucks because obviously if something happens to that company, then that would have a domino effect and come down and actually affect the good people that work for these evil effers. But that's something that we can look at down the road. I'm getting way off track here. But anyway, Charlton, this is for you. I am not helping MGM. I do want the victims to get as much as they can monetarily wise because they deserve it. But guess what, bro? It was a terrorist attack. It was a terrorist attack. And if we go through this lawsuit a little bit more, it talks about the definition of terrorism, how this attack should satisfy the requirements of the Safety Act, and then they start quoting Department of Homeland Security. But in the post-attack investigation, revealed that Paddock brought in his van, which he parked in the hotel garage at Mandalay Bay, their garage, 90 pounds of explosives, 20 pounds of exploding targets, one 10-pound container of exploding targets, and two 20-pound bags of explosive precursors, which that's a whole nother story and video. But no MGM party attempted to commit, knowingly participated in, aided, abetted, committed, or participated in any conspiracy to commit any act of terrorism or a criminal act related to mass attack perpetrated by Stephen Paddock at the Route 91 Harvest Festival in Las Vegas on October 1st, 2017. Well, I have a problem with that paragraph also because I believe through my investigation and my research that there had to be involvement with Mandalay Bay staff, Tropicana staff, Luxor staff. I have scanner traffic that I will get out to you that talks about a person calling in and reporting that there was a list for bribe and that they wanted to get that information to the LVMPD. Now, this was, that call was handled by North Las Vegas, I believe, and it went to a sergeant in North Las Vegas. What happened to that information after that is anybody's guess because it will never see the light of day. But even if I didn't know that, and even if I didn't hear that scanner traffic, you can tell by looking at the security control room monitors. You can tell that by looking at the CCTV coverage at the Tropicana. That the valet guys were involved. Some security, the bike security guys at Mandalay Bay were involved. You've got Jim selling a shit ton of his shares, and other big shareholders, other big people in the company, selling off a lot of stock in the few weeks prior to it. Soros, you know, I almost feel like, and this is a theory I have not talked about, but it's just a theory, it's a lot of speculation, but I'm going to throw it out there, not meaning to harm anybody, but it may have some legs, I don't know. We know Jim Murren, however you pronounce his freaking last name, does not like Trump. He really dislikes the dude. Really, a lot. I watched a lot of coverage of him on different news networks and things before the election, out stomping for Hillary, and it was actually quite disgusting. But Jim Murin was on the National Security Advisory Committee, something like that. Infrastructure, terrorism crap. Well, I did some research, and once he got appointed to that, they only meet 3 times a year. But Jim was on either on conference call or was physically in person at every meeting while Obama was in office. Now, again, this is only 3 times a year, but still. Like, one of the meetings was in Virginia, and, so they're all across the country. But he would usually do, like, 2 over the phone or video conference, however they did it, and then he would be in person at 1. Now, whether he's still on that committee, I don't know. But he would have had knowledge that Trump was talking about cutting funding for the Urban Area Security Initiative. All that money that these these areas get that have the highest terror threats. Trump was looking at cutting some of that. He was looking at cutting some other DOJ money that would have affected them. And it's almost like, I feel like, did MGM say, all right, we're gonna fix your little red wagon, you're not gonna cut that funding once you take office. We're gonna make sure you don't, by staging a little terrorist attack to show you how needed those funds are for our county, for our Las Vegas Strip, to protect all our tourists. Because obviously he's got ties with these people, with CARE, with these organizations that are deemed terrorist organizations. He's supporting these people. So it's almost like they attacked themselves, but something went wrong. And I know that sounds a little kooky, but that was something that was put out there in the beginning, like Antifa and ISIS and MS-13, together with Mandalay Bay attacked Mandalay Bay. But a lot of the major action there was a lot of action in a lot of MGM properties. Now, I don't think the Tropicana is owned by MGM, but there was many, many things going on there that night. So, because Jim hated Trump, he hates Trump, and he knew he would be the one to know, obviously, that Trump was wanting to cut a lot of that funding. And they just weren't going to stand for that, because they've been screaming for more and more and more for how many years? For how many years have they been asking and screaming and writing letters, and this congressman and that senator and the governor and the gaming association wanting more and more and more and more money to protect from terrorism, because they are such a big target. They downplayed that whole scenario. They downplayed that. Nobody talked about the credible threats that were there just 4 to 6 months prior to all this happening. Again, there's so many different pieces. How do you get them all to fit together? I don't know, but they downplayed all that. They lied their asses off. They were gaslighting for 10 months before anybody uttered the word terrorist attack. But then when it would benefit them without the risk of losing any of their precious tourists, then it was okay. to half-ass tell the truth. But anyway, getting back to this lawsuit, but I disagree with this paragraph saying that nobody participated, aided, or vetted, because that's bullshit. I think that their staff did. I really, truly do. Public statements by the Secretary of Homeland Security concerning the attack make clear that the attack meets the Security Act. In congressional testimony on November 30th, the acting secretary, that must have been Elaine Duke, noted the emphasis of terrorists and other violent criminals on attacking soft targets, including the recent tragedies in Nevada. The acting secretary went on to note that the Safety Act program provides critical incentives for the development and deployment of anti-terrorism technologies by providing liability protections for qualified anti-terrorism technologies, which applies to a number of large sports and entertainment venues nationwide. In May 2018, DHS noted that mass shootings in various places, including at a quote-unquote concert, aim to kill and maim unsuspecting individuals and thereby fall within the department's primary mission to prevent terrorist attacks within the U.S., reduce the vulnerability of the U.S. to terrorism, and minimize the damage and assist in recovery from terrorist attacks that do occur, including those in soft targets, crowded places. Department of Homeland Security, Soft Targets and Crowded Places Security Plan Overview, page 2, the report goes on to note that protections of the Safety Act have been approved for open venues such as sports arenas and stadiums such as the venue for Route 91 Festival. It also continues its critical work to prevent and respond to mass violence. In May 15th, the Secretary testified that DHS is seeking to ramp up soft target security efforts, noting that DHS programs address threats to soft targets, including schools, entertainment venues, major events, and public spaces. They also announced that they had developed a soft target security enhancement and coordination plan, which has not been made public. I've looked at this. You can look it up on DHS. The plan addresses the increased emphasis by terrorists and other extremist actors to leverage less sophisticated methods to inflict harm in public areas such as parks, special event venues, and similar facilities. So it just goes on and on and on. And if you look at the Department of Homeland Security, go on there, you will see a pattern that started after October 1st of all the soft target stuff, homegrown violent extremist thing reports, and new protocols, and all this work that they have done that I feel is pointedly related back to what happened on October 1st, 2017. Obviously, they don't come right out and say that, but if you look at the direction that that whole department took after October 1st, you will see that it is directly related to like homegrown violent extremists, soft targets, things like that. They redid, they refurbished all this information and all these protocols directly related to the October 1st terrorist attack. Again, in Las Vegas and the state of Nevada got a whole lot more money for terrorism funding for 2018 after October 1st. Now, that was just a change in the formula. It doesn't necessarily mean we're at higher threat level or anything. Yeah, they moved up on the threat assessment. They moved up 11 spaces, something like that, because there was a terrorist attack on October 1st. So They really, really do a fantastic job at hiding, omitting, minimizing all this shit when it's convenient for them. But when they need it, then they just pull it out of their ass and throw it in your face, and it's not supposed to affect you. Because remember, you're programmed to think that it was a lone actor, a lone shooter, a 64-year-old dude, geriatric dude who just flipped a switch, but yet meticulously planned all this, but just went crazy and did this. None of that shit makes sense. None of it makes sense. What does make more sense is the whole terrorist attack thing. That's what makes sense. It does. Unfortunately, it does. But when you're looking for the truth, you have to just be open to it, and you have to accept it, whether you want to or not, whether who it benefits. It is what it is. If it benefits anybody, I would think that it would benefit, the truth will benefit the whole nation, in my estimation, in my belief, in my heart. That's what I think. So I'm probably a rambling mess, but anyway, I had to address that. That really kind of upset me with Charlton. I mean, it's not going to change the way I feel about, I mean, I'm still going to watch his stuff and stuff, but man, like, he was really kind of really trying to make people feel shitty about looking for the truth. And sorry, bro, I'm never going to feel bad about that. I'm never going to feel bad about that. I'm just not. And I am pro-Trump, and I don't mind saying that. And I'm not afraid to say that. I am who I am, and what you see is what you get. And if you don't like it, then don't subscribe to my channel and don't watch my videos. And if you do, great. Subscribe, comment, like, all that stuff. Because that's what fuels me. Though, if I was doing this without any feedback of support, I guess I probably still would not be doing this. So I wish I could do a better job for you guys. I really do. And what I really, really want to do, and like I'm totally mentally blocked or something, but maybe now I won't be, is finish up with this Mary Lou stuff. Oh my gosh, it's driving me nuts. Like, I just became like mentally blocked because now I'm getting into all the scanner traffic, and I think I'm worried about it. I want it to be so perfect and so awesome that I'm just like froze. I'm just paralyzed by wanting to do such a good job with the next couple phases of this Mary Lou because it's so important. And if I can just get you the information, then there will be no doubt in my mind what conclusion you will come to. So I'm feeling the pressure, I guess, which sucks because I don't want to feel like that. But I think now that I kind of got like a little dude, my blood pressure was up there today after I watched Charlton's video, and I was like, oh man, I think that gave me the little kick in the butt that I needed, and I can maybe really kind of batten down the hatches and work on getting the next installment of Mary Lou out, because it's been a while, and I really didn't want it to be that far in between so that you wouldn't forget what happened in the last segment, but I will address that. There's so much other stuff that I want to talk about, but I don't know how long I've been going. Probably, close to an hour. Way too long. So anyway, have a safe and happy New Year. I hope everybody is having a good time. And I was excited, like, just thinking that, man, it's been a year. It has been a year since my first upload, and I'm still here, and I'm still kicking, man. I am still doing this. And I won't give up. I won't give up. I might get burned out every once in a while and just have to binge watch stupid reality shows, but I won't give up. I won't stop. It's not in my DNA. So I hope I hope this made some sense. Honestly, now I can't even remember what I was talking about. I just rambled. I don't know. All right. I will I will see everybody soon. There will be links in the description. My links, if you want to support my channel, would be greatly, greatly appreciated. I'm not going to get into all that stuff, but on top of winter, there's other things going on, and it has just not been great. But I'm hanging in there. I want it to get better. I will make a concerted effort to make things get better, but um, support certainly would help right now. So happy New Year, you guys, and I will be back soon. I promise.